The flames roared higher as your enemies, gripped by panic, hurled documents into the fire, their desperation plain for all to see. They thought themselves cunning, believing they could erase every trace of their wrongdoing with calculated precision. Yet, what they failed to realize was that their cruelty had already been observed. Every scheme, every act of sabotage, every ruthless attempt to dismantle what you had built was silently witnessed. In the arrogance of their secrecy, they overlooked the divine ledger where every transgression had been recorded beyond the reach of ashes or fire. The universe had already shifted. Justice had quietly set itself in motion, powered by forces beyond human control. Though you, the chosen one, may have suffered quietly, heaven's patience had reached its limit. The scales that had long been tipped against you were now being righted by an unseen hand. What your enemies failed to grasp was both simple and profound. Some debts can never be erased and some witnesses can never be silenced. They believed no one was watching, convinced their crimes would vanish in the night, consumed by silence and fire. But the truth has eyes, and those eyes have seen everything. Hidden in the darkness, a witness remained, frozen, breath shallow, heart pounding, as they watched your enemies burn the final remnants of their betrayal. The flames danced wildly, devouring what little evidence remained, but the crime itself had already been committed, and the witness had seen too much. Fear took hold at first. Who were they to stand against such darkness? After all, your enemies were powerful, cunning, and relentless. So much had already been destroyed. What would stop them from silencing one more voice? The weight of the truth pressed heavily on the witness's chest, a secret too dangerous to reveal but too sacred to abandon. They faced a difficult choice: remain silent and allow injustice to fester, or step forward and confront the coming storm. Silence was tempting. It was easier, safer to remain hidden, to pretend they had never seen anything, to walk away and let the fire consume not just the evidence, but also the burden of responsibility. That path would have been simple, but something deep within refused to surrender. Truth cannot be erased just because it's ignored. It lingers, whispering in the shadows of the mind, growing heavier with every passing moment. The witness felt that suffocating weight of inaction creeping into their soul, their mind replaying every detail. The calculated destruction, the smug confidence of the enemies as they fed lie after lie into the flames, certain they were untouchable. Clenching their fists, the witness realized this was bigger than justice alone. It was about something higher, something divine. If they didn't speak out, who would? If they didn't act, who else would hold the wicked accountable? The decision didn't happen all at once. It unfolded slowly, like dawn breaking across a dark landscape. Gradual but inevitable. Yes, there would be consequences, but something far worse than fear threatened: regret. The regret of knowing they had the power to reveal the truth, but chose instead to let darkness prevail. That was not an option. The witness had seen too much, and now they would make sure the world saw too. Yet, exposing evil wasn't simple. They knew they couldn't just confront their enemies directly. That would be reckless. This would require strategy and patience. Fortunately, the enemies had made one fatal mistake. Your enemies believed they were alone, convinced their crimes had vanished with the last embers. But in their arrogance, they set the stage for their own downfall. The witness refused to act impulsively, choosing instead the quiet strength of patience, understanding that true power sometimes comes from waiting for the perfect moment. The enemies had always assumed they were untouchable, that no one would ever dare challenge them. The witness was determined to prove that assumption would cost them everything. For now, they remained hidden, unseen and unnoticed. But such anonymity was only temporary. Truth cannot be buried. It cannot be drowned, burned, or destroyed. It simply waits for its moment to emerge. and that moment was fast approaching for those who thought they had won. The enemies comforted themselves with the idea that the evidence had disappeared, reduced to ash and scattered to the winds, leaving behind no trace. They moved with the swagger of those convinced their tracks were covered, their crimes erased from history. They smirked with satisfaction, celebrated their supposed victory, and laughed at the ones they believed they had outsmarted. Their arrogance gave them comfort, their ignorance became their shield. What they failed to realize was that this false sense of security would become their undoing. They thought themselves untouchable, not knowing that watchful eyes remained on them. They believed the truth had been burned away, but it still lingered, in the memories of those who saw and in the divine record that can never be altered. Justice does not sleep. It never loses its way, and never forgets the cries of the innocent. It moves with deliberate precision, guided by a force beyond human comprehension. Though the chosen ones suffered quietly, heaven's patience had reached its breaking point. Every act of betrayal and cruelty had finally tipped the scales. Balance was on its way. While the enemies reveled in their illusion of victory, unseen hands had already begun to unravel their deceit. The very forces they once manipulated now turned against them. Their victories, built on lies, would crumble beneath the weight of justice. Stolen crowns never rest securely, and what was gained through treachery would soon be lost through divine reckoning. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. The chosen ones did not need to seek vengeance themselves. The decree had already been delivered from the highest authority. The enemies would never see it coming, but their fall was already set in motion. The very power they relied on would betray them. The very lies they spun would unravel before their eyes, and their punishment would come not by mortal hands, but by the divine force that never forgets, never overlooks, and never allows wickedness to rule forever. So, the chosen ones wait, not with fear or doubt, but with unshakable certainty. Justice is not just a hope, it is a promise. Their enemies' time is almost up, and soon they will finally face the cost of their crimes, far too late to escape the fate they sealed for themselves. Quick pause. Family. If this message is resonating with your soul and you'd love to support this sacred work, feel free to buy me a coffee. It keeps this space flowing with truth, light, and divine clarity. Link is in the description, and drop number 88 in the comments. Let's keep going. They will pay. The enemies, so sure of their own cunning, thought they had buried every last piece of evidence beneath layers of deception. They watched with satisfaction as the flames devoured the incriminating documents, convinced the fire would erase their guilt and leave no trail behind. Each lie carefully constructed, each truth meticulously smothered beneath silence, they wrapped their crimes in what seemed like an unbreakable chain, believing themselves untouchable and forever protected by the darkness they had created. But what they failed to grasp was that some evidence simply cannot be burned away, no matter how hot the flames or how desperate their efforts. Some truths are immortal. They linger in the air, echoing in the silent spaces, refusing to fade even when every attempt is made to destroy them. Perhaps it is a single overlooked detail, a name scribbled in the margin, a whispered warning caught by someone standing just outside the room, a record thought deleted but hidden deep within the system. These seemingly insignificant cracks, invisible to the naked eye, become fissures in the foundation of the enemy's lies. The destruction they orchestrated with such confidence begins to turn against them piece by piece. What was hidden starts to surface, not in one overwhelming wave, but in a steady, relentless trickle. A photograph that survived, a testimony they failed to intimidate, a witness they never imagined could hold on to the truth. Maybe it's as tiny as a timestamp on a forgotten email, a signature out of place, or a sentence spoken in frustration that echoes back at just the right moment. None of these fragments seem important at first, but together they form a trail, a path that points unerringly back to those who believe themselves above consequence. As the realization sets in, panic takes root. The enemies scramble to contain the fallout, racing to invent new stories, to patch up old holes with new lies, to control a narrative that is slipping out of their grasp. Yet every move only further entangles them in the web they spun for others. Their confidence wavers, then shatters. Their arrogance dissolves into dread. The very forces they once manipulated to climb higher, the secrets, the shadows, the power plays, now drag them downward, stripping away every illusion of safety they clung to. The truth, relentless as a rising tide, waits for the moment when it can no longer be contained. When it finally bursts forth, it does not arrive with a whisper or a gentle nudge. It comes as a roar, a storm that exposes every hidden wrong for all to see. The enemies watch in helpless horror as the empire of lies they so carefully constructed begins to crumble. The darkness they once wielded as a weapon turns against them, suffocating, inescapable. They believe they could rewrite the past, erase the pain, and rewrite history in their own favor, but the past is stubborn. It holds on with a vengeance, resurfacing when least expected, reminding everyone that what is done in darkness will always find its way into the light. Meanwhile, the chosen ones have no need to act in haste. There is no rush, no frantic attempt to force justice by their own hands. They understand that justice has already been set in motion, like a river that cannot be diverted. The evidence that was once hidden is emerging on its own, piece by piece, impossible to stop. The fate of those who did wrong was sealed in the very moment they believed themselves clever enough to escape accountability. They celebrated their supposed victory, laughed at the misfortune of others, and convinced themselves the truth had been destroyed. But the truth is indestructible. It cannot be erased by any force on earth. Now, like a relentless wind, it is returning to claim what was stolen, to restore what was lost, and to set right what was made crooked. Let's pause for a moment. Yes, this part is meant for someone specific. Not everyone will feel this, and that's perfectly all right. If this message doesn't echo inside you, you can move along. But if, as you listen, something deep within you stirs, if you feel a spark or a pull in your bones, you already know this was written for you. This is for the ones who never truly fit in, the ones who see what others overlook, the ones who have always been told to stay quiet, to shrink themselves, to settle for less, or to follow rules they never believed in. But no matter how much pressure was put on them, they couldn't force themselves to become ordinary. They were never meant to blend in or lose themselves in the crowd. These souls aren't here to echo the voices of others or chase after someone else's definition of success. They are drawn to something bigger, something deeper. They feel a calling that can't be explained, a knowing that the world is not always as it seems, and that they were placed here for a reason. This message is a reminder. You're not alone. You're not crazy for refusing to accept a reality built on lies or for wanting more than what's been handed to you. You're among the rare few who were born to stand apart, to challenge what's false, and to bring what's hidden into the light. Justice, truth, and destiny are not just abstract words. They are living forces moving on your behalf. The unraveling has begun, and no matter how hard your enemies try to resist, the tide cannot be turned back. Justice is coming, and you, yes you, are part of its unfolding story. They are the guiding light that refuses to be swallowed by the darkness, the unwavering beacon that pierces through even the thickest shadow. In a world that so often celebrates those who blend in, these souls stand as the storm, shattering illusions, tearing down falsehoods, and forcing the truth into the open, whether people are ready for it or not. They are the unshakable pillars that cannot be bent by adversity, the unstoppable force that refuses to be blocked by any obstacle, the untouchable ones whose spirit cannot be broken, no matter how relentless the attacks, while the rest of the world spins endlessly in circles, chasing after fleeting approval, temporary applause, and the comfort of the crowd. These individuals walk their own path, steady, purposeful, and alone if they must be. Their journey isn't fueled by a need for recognition or applause. They don't need the approval of the masses or the validation of the crowd. They move forward because it is who they are, because something deep inside won't allow them to bow to lies or be shaped by fear. They were made for more, shaped by hardship and honed by truth. Raise a silent toast to the ones who took every attempt to destroy them and transmuted it into something sacred, something beautiful, something unbreakable. These are the people who took pain and let it teach them, who gathered every piece of suffering and turned it into wisdom. Their scars are not shameful. They are proof of survival, evidence of a journey only the brave can take. The wisdom they carry can't be read in a book or inherited from someone else. It's hard-won, earned through nights of struggle, moments of doubt, and 100 battles where surrender would have been easier, but victory meant becoming something new. If you've ever felt that burning sense that you are different, that you were made for a higher purpose, even if you don't always know what it is, you're not alone. When you're ready, you'll know where to find others like you. If not, that's all right too. Everyone has their time. The choice is always yours. Growth can't be forced, awakening can't be rushed. But for far too long, the witness had lived in the shadows, weighed down by a truth that grew heavier with every passing day. Fear was a constant companion. Fear of retribution from powerful enemies. Fear of being left alone in a struggle that seemed too big for any one person to face. Fear that their words would be lost in the roar of a world determined not to listen. They learned to silence themselves, to shrink back, to accept the chains of secrecy as if they were somehow meant to carry that burden alone. But silence, while offering the illusion of safety, became a prison, a place where the knowledge of what was right gnawed at their soul, making every day feel a little colder, every moment a little darker. There comes a point when the weight of the truth becomes unbearable, when the cost of hiding outweighs even the fear of the consequences. With the courage that only comes from deep inner resolve, the witness finally steps into the light. Their voice, once frail and quivering with uncertainty, now carries the thunderous authority of truth. It's a transformation born of necessity, not ego. The result of surviving long enough to realize that there is greater danger in silence than in speaking out. The enemies who had always counted on intimidation, manipulation, and fear to keep their secrets safe believed that their darkness was too thick for any light to pierce. They were wrong. The witness had seen too much, learned too much, felt too much to ever be silent again. And now the world would hear every word. Their testimony is more than just a recounting of events. It is a catalyst, the match that ignites the fuse of justice. As the truth is spoken, the lies that once seemed indestructible begin to unravel. Evidence thought destroyed begins to reappear. Connections long buried come to the surface, and the intricate web of deception collapses under its own weight. The fortress the enemies built for themselves turns to sand, its walls closing in and crumbling under the pressure of exposure. The witness, once paralyzed by fear, now stands taller than ever, bolstered by the knowledge that their bravery is turning the tide. With every word, every revelation, the power of the enemies diminishes. Now the enemies feel it, truly feel it, for the first time. The evidence they thought had vanished forever comes back to haunt them. The web of deceit they so carefully wove unravels with startling speed, threads snapping one after another, impossible to repair. The fear they relied on to control others now turns inward, coiling around them, squeezing tighter. The power they once wielded so ruthlessly becomes their own undoing, a noose tightening around their necks with every passing day. Their victory, once so sweet, now tastes bitter, like dust and regret. Their empire of deception, so masterfully constructed, begins to collapse at their feet, each block pulled away by the very truths they tried to hide. Desperation seeps in, clouding their thoughts, making their actions erratic and frantic. The calculated coolness that wants to find them gives way to panic, and in that panic, they make more mistakes. Every desperate move only speeds up their downfall. Every attempt to reassert control only exposes more of their vulnerability. There is no more comfort in shadows, no more safety in secrets. The witness's courage has shifted the balance, and the enemy can feel the inescapable weight of consequence pressing down with every breath. There is nowhere left to run, only the reckoning that now approaches, unstoppable and long overdue. They scramble now, desperate to regain the control they once took for granted, frantically weaving new webs of lies in hopes of containing the truth that refuses to be hidden any longer. They try in vain to silence the voices that are rising all around them, the witness, the chosen ones, and all those who have found their courage. But their efforts are useless now. The witness has already spoken, the chosen ones have stepped forward, and the truth no longer bows to the will of manipulators. At every turn, they find doors slamming shut, allies evaporating. The same people who once supported them out of fear, who stood by in silence, now quietly distance themselves, unwilling to be dragged down by the very darkness they once enabled. These enemies, once convinced of their untouchable status, now find themselves utterly alone. They laughed at the idea of justice, convinced that fire had erased their sins, that their arrogance could outlast the reach of consequence. What they failed to grasp is that justice is not just a human concept. It is a law, unchanging and eternal, woven into the very framework of existence itself. Now that law demands a price. The world watches as the fall unfolds. Some look on in disbelief, unable to reconcile the downfall of those who once seemed invincible. Others watch with quiet satisfaction, understanding that this is the natural outcome for anyone who builds their kingdom upon deception. The collapse is never slow or gentle. It is swift, ruthless, and absolute. This is not mere misfortune or coincidence. This is karma in motion, justice long overdue, a force that cannot be bargained with or escaped. Now finally their day of reckoning has arrived, and no amount of pleading, plotting, or power can save them. And what of you? You have endured when most would have given up. You have walked through fires meant to consume you, faced betrayals engineered to silence you, fought battles designed to break your spirit. Yet here you are, unshaken, undefeated, and truly victorious. The enemy thought they had written your ending. They thought their schemes would erase your presence, that their web of deception would rewrite your story and render you powerless. But what they never understood is that you were never meant to be destroyed. You were destined to rise. This victory is not merely about retribution or seeing your adversaries fall. It is a testament to the fact that no force of darkness, no manipulation, and no betrayal can strip away what has been divinely appointed for you. They tried to take everything from you, your voice, your strength, your very future. But what is ordained cannot be stolen. They tried to bury you, not realizing you were a seed. They tried to silence you, but your truth, rooted in something eternal, refused to be erased. Now all they built with lies collapses beneath their feet while you remain standing stronger and more radiant than ever. This was never about seeking revenge. You did not have to stoop to scheming or manipulation. You did not have to beg or plead for justice. You simply had to stand your ground, anchored in the knowledge that truth always defends itself. What was once taken from you has now been restored, not because you forced it, but because it was always meant to return to you. The scales have been balanced, the battle has been won, and through every trial, you never lost yourself. Each scar you carry is a mark of resilience, Every wound inflicted by your adversaries became a lesson, a stepping stone, a badge of endurance. Where they thought they were breaking you, they were only refining you. Where they believed you were losing, you were simply being prepared for greater things. You are not just a survivor, you are a conqueror. You have shown that patience is not weakness, that faith is not naivete, and that justice, though it may tarry, always arrives right on time. Now the enemy sits amidst the ruins of their downfall, coming to the slow and painful realization that you were never meant to fall. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth that your victory was inevitable, not through underhanded means, but through your resilience, your wisdom, and the divine favor that always surrounded you. This is your victory, not just over those who tried to defeat you, but over doubt, over fear, and over every force that sought to convince you that you were not enough. You have reclaimed your power, not out of vengeance, but out of unwavering certainty in who you are and what you are meant to accomplish. You did not simply win, you overcame. This battle was never only about your enemy, it was about your journey, your evolution, your unshakable spirit. Every attack meant to destroy you instead revealed your true strength. Every setback was the setup for a new chapter. Every betrayal became a lesson in discernment and clarity. Every delay became a reminder that divine timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment. Your enemies believed they could control the outcome, that their lies and manipulations would always give them the upper hand. But they never had the final say. The pain they caused was real, but it could not last. Their power was temporary, their victories mere illusions. You, however, are built on something eternal, something unshakable. That is why you endured. That is why, after all the storms, you are still standing, still shining, still here. So take these lessons with you. Understand that when injustice rises up, it is only a matter of time before it falls. Know that your silence during times of suffering was not weakness, but patience and wisdom in waiting for the right moment. Remember always that you are not ordinary. You are chosen, you are protected, and you are destined for victory. This was never just a fight. It was a testament to the essence of who you are. You have proven time and again that nothing, no matter how carefully planned, no matter how well hidden, can destroy you. The wicked may plot and scheme. They may cover their tracks. But justice is inevitable. They may laugh today, convinced that they have escaped judgment. But time is not their ally. What is done in darkness always comes to light. What they tried to erase will rise up as their accuser. And when the hour of reckoning finally comes, no power, no lie, no deception will save them. You have witnessed this truth with your own eyes. You have endured the sting of betrayal, the ache of injustice, the loneliness of being misunderstood. You have watched your enemies boast of victory, convinced their tricks had succeeded. But look at you now. Their laughter has faded into silence, their arrogance withered into fear. The very traps they set for you have become the very instruments of their downfall. This is because justice is not an illusion. It is an eternal law, unbreakable and absolute. It does not need your help to act or your permission to move. When the time is right, justice comes like a storm, swift, undeniable, and complete, bringing the consequences that were always waiting in the shadows. So let this be your reminder. You do not need to chase revenge or lower yourself to the level of those who sought to bring you down. Your power has never come from retaliation, but from endurance, faith, and integrity. You have already won, not just because your enemies have fallen, but because you refuse to surrender to the darkness that tried to swallow you. Remember this always. The wicked may run, but they cannot hide. They may scheme, but they cannot escape. And as for you, the chosen ones, you will always rise, untouched, unbroken, and victorious. Justice has prevailed, and as long as truth exists, it always will. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.